the chat room. Okay, I'm taking that from the beginning again. Good afternoon to every member of the Internet Society Nigerian chapter. As ground rules, please, if you wish to make a comment or make a contribution, kindly, first of all, make such in the chat room. If you are advised to raise your hand, kindly use the buttons to please raise your hand so that you can be recognized by the moderator. In the light of that, you're welcome, as everything we will be speaking or doing right here on the internet will be recorded. Thank you, and over to the Vice President, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary. We appreciate the House rule, and I believe so much that so many people are still going to join us on this platform this afternoon. But in our characteristic manner, we believe in keeping to the time. And of course, that is why we have to start now. And without wasting time, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. And right now, I want to call on the President of Internet Society Nigerian Chapter. And there is no other person than Mr. Caleb Olumuyiwa Ogundele, who is going to give the welcome address on this great occasion. Mr. President, over to you, please.
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking your precious time to attend this webinar on Encryption Day celebration. More importantly, I'd like to first thank and acknowledge my predecessor and also my mentor, Dewole Ajao, who is also on this call and one of the speakers. And also, I see I have quite a number of mentors here. Ojedeji, Professor Adewale Odedukun, all some of our senior colleagues who are here celebrating this Encryption Day with us. I want to thank all of them for taking their time to be part of this celebration and to also agreeing to speak at this Encryption Day celebration. This means a lot to all of us at Internet Society because this is what we believe in. We believe that there should be a switch to encryption. Everyone deserves their privacy, such that when we exchange information between each other, we should at least have some level of privacy and all of that. So without wasting much of our time, I would just want to yield over and just welcome everyone and thanking you all for participating actively. And in case you know some of your friends who are yet to be part of this, please just give them a nudge to quickly join before we wrap up the session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. That's a welcome remark, and we appreciate the speech so much. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag because I believe we have, somebody that is going to do justice to that. But before we get into that, Honorable Secretary, please, I want you to get ready to give us a brief of what happened yesterday. And while you are trying to get ready, I just want to tell us, like I said, when we started this program, you know that we made this program, when we started planning it, we made it a 2-day event, like I said when we started. And yesterday we had a roadshow in which, some of us went to the streets, the roads. We tried as much as possible to, create the awareness about the Global Encryption Day. Not that alone, we also tried to, educate people about what is encryption, so that at least people that really need to do one or two things on their computer, on their laptops, on their phones, they will be aware that, look, even if I'm working on my computer, I need to, be aware of what is called encryption. And I need to do something about it so that my businesses will be protected. Even my social life will be protected. And of course, this has to do with even national security and so many other issues. And as a matter of fact, we are talking about the internet as it is. So encryption on the internet is something that is very dear to us and is very important. And without wasting time, I want to call on the Honorable Secretary now, who is going to give us a brief of what happened yesterday. You just need to listen to this. Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice President, sir. I was trying to share my screen in such a way that I could manipulate more than one picture or video. Unfortunately, I would not be able to do that. So I quickly picked on one of the highlights. This is Lagos State Polytechnic in Lagos State. We woke up and decided, according to the project plan, to ensure that everything goes smoothly by traveling all the way from the center of Lagos to a suburb in Lagos called Ikorodu. That is the Lagos part in Ikorodu. And the Lagos State Polytechnic happens to be one of such polytechnics that actually ensures that a lot of people can actually come in to educate their students. So we stood at a strategic point where we allowed young people of great minds to come to us to ask us different questions, ranging from the union executives to the lecturers or the so-called, so to say, teachers. And we were able to accommodate a lot of people. In between, we were also able to visit some other places along the road. Again, like I said, I may not be able to share my screen as I would have wanted to, but I will be sharing some pictures with you. We had different questions asked. We had a faith-based organization coming up to ask us what they could do to do better. Unfortunately, we had with us our booklet, a leaflet that we could share to help them understand what the two-factor authentication implies, what encryption is all about, how the internet society is making impact. And if you notice, for those of you who are on our Telegram page, we have had a series of number of people joining prior to that day. And moving forward, you will see more new members coming in. The Internet Society Nigerian chapter is a place to be. And if you are not here already, if you are not a member of the Internet Society, if you stumbled on this particular meeting, because the leaflet also carried information of how to become a member of this particular meeting, how to attend and participate at this meeting. So for those of you who are here to join us, please use this opportunity to join us. Yesterday was awesome. Even though it was rainy, we decided to go against the rain to make sure that this was a success. And we want to appreciate everyone who put their hands on deck to make sure that it happened. That is all from me for now. And thank you so much for joining us. Over to you, Honorable Vice President, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary General. And I think that was a brilliant report you just gave. And I want to appreciate you for a good job well done. And just to add to that, please, while I'm doing this, I want the Honorable Program Secretary and our own Honorable FinSec to get ready, because we are going to the real deal now. I'm talking about the panel session. So, but before they come up, while they are trying to pull their things together, I just want to add to what Honorable Secretary said, that you know, this roadshow actually happened in Lagos, and as a matter of fact, it did happen in Abuja too. We had a similar program. Unfortunately, I may not be able to, you know, project right now because of the situation in which I found myself. But I would want to encourage each and every one of us to visit the Facebook of Internet Society Nigerian chapter. You will definitely see some of the, you know, live videos that we did yesterday. I'm sure you'll be able to connect with that, because it has to do with the same program we're talking about. That is talking about the Global Encryption Day. There we, you know, try as much as possible to encourage people to learn so much about, you know, encryption. Apart from that, we also try to, you know, educate them, to let them know what encryption is all about. And interestingly, we chose a very busy location in Abuja. In fact, I would say one of the busiest locations in Abuja, where you can meet, you know, the buyers and the sellers and all other type of businesses. The place is known as UTC. For those of you that are familiar with Abuja, you know what I'm talking about. If you want to get something done and you want it done in good time, just get to UTC. There you get to meet a lot of artisans, you get to meet a lot of business people, especially when you're talking about, stuff that have to do with ICT. That is one of the habits that is located in Abuja, where you can get things done easily when it comes to ICT. And not that alone, there are other businesses there. So we deemed it fit that, look, this is a very good location for this kind of program where people need to learn about encryption, where people need to be aware of encryption because it affects them in their daily lives, talking about their businesses, talking about their social lives, talking about, all facets of life. And that is the reason why we chose that location. And please just visit our website, our Facebook page. You get to see what I'm talking about in terms of the live video shows that we recorded. And even apart from that, we had a lot of pictures, which of course, maybe at the end of the whole show, at the end of the whole program, all that are going to be loaded on our website and of course, maybe on our social handles for us to see. Yes, having said that, I think it's time for us to go into the main program, or let me say the main agenda, one of the main stuff that we're talking about today, and that is the panel session. And I can see our panelists, they are all around, and we want to appreciate you. We thank you very much for coming, for yielding to the clarion call. And I can see our president retired. Thank you very much. I can see elders like Mr. Ojedeji. Thank you very much. I can also see the other panelists too, please. I may not be able to mention everybody's name now, but I know Chinwe and Priscilla will do justice to that. We welcome you all, and we really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much, and you're welcome. Over to you, Chinwe and Priscilla. Please run the show.
Yeah, good day.
Hello, Chinwe. Could you please get to the location?
So much for honoring us with your presence. Like everyone who has spoken has said, it's just correcting me of a lot of very experienced people. So thank you so much, Chinwe Ogbujah, Program Secretary ISO. Today I'll be moderating. Can you hear me?
The voice is a bit choppy.
Can everybody hear me, please?
So if you can get to a place where the internet is a bit
Hello,
stable.
can you hear me?
The quality of your speech is not too, it's not excellent. Let me put it that way. And like the president advised, peradventure, if you could change, location, I guess that may help. And maybe while you are trying to do that, maybe Priscilla may just take over, since both of you are running the show together. Thank you. Hello, Priscilla.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, I was not being allowed to unmute myself initially, but I think that's been sorted out. So welcome, everybody. We appreciate you taking your time to be with us to have this discussion. special appreciation to our panelists for being here and everybody that has joined in. So the objectives of this webinar is to sensitize participants and ISOC members of the importance of encryption. We will try to identify necessary measures that we need to take to ensure that only those that have authorization to access data does that. So to help us understand what encryption is, we hope to answer some few questions. Questions like, what is encryption? When is encryption used? Why is encryption under threat? How we can protect ourselves or our devices? Those questions, our panelists will trash them, and we hope that we'll have clear understanding at the end of this discussion. So I'll go straight to introducing our panelists. We are lucky to have 4 powerful panelists. Starting from Dewole Ajao. Mr. Dewole is an exceptional self-starter with demonstrated skills in internet service provision, web services and hosting, peering and interconnection strategy, network supplier management, contract negotiation, internet policy development, cybersecurity, access advocacy, business development, capacity building, and community building. He possesses strong communication and interpersonal skills with extensive relationships in the development, regulatory, and commercial internet spaces. Please, can we put a virtual round of applause for Mr. Dewole? We are honored to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's an honor to be here.
Okay. Our second panelist is Mr. Akachi Maduako. I hope I got that right. Mr. Akachi Maduako is a cybersecurity analyst and penetration tester at Upgraded Era ICT Solutions. He's a member of Tech Nigeria. He's a cybersecurity trainer and a data analyst. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Maduako, your mic is on mute. You can respond, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. We also have Mr. Sati Satmer Dapel. Mr. Sati Dapel holds a BSc degree in computer science and an MSc in information science. He has been an assistant director of network administration and cybersecurity for University of Jos. Mr. Sati is certified in Cisco CCNA, CCNA security, Cisco cybersecurity operations, Cisco certified ICT data communication, Huawei certified academy instructor. He's also certified in Microtik certified network associate, and Microtik certified wireless engineer. He's also certified as a Cisco cybersecurity operations instructor trainer, and that is just to cut it short. Mr. Sati is also a Cisco certified instructor and has trained over 350 instructors and 8,000 students in various institutions and academic nationwide. He has received various awards in the ICT industry and the ICT ecosystem at large, including a worldwide award of Cisco 2018 Worldwide Instructor Excellence Award. He's a member of Nigeria Computer Science Society Computer Professionals of Nigeria, and Internet Society. He's also a member of Plateau Association of Tech Companies and Association of ICT Consultants on the Plateau. Please welcome Mr. Sati Dapel.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Finally, we have Mr. Sani. Mr. Sani is a program assistant at Paradigm Initiative, where he oversees the organization's activities relating to business and human rights. He's pursuing a master's degree in remote sensing from ABU Zaria, and also holds a certificate in data protection from the Faculty of Law at the University of Lagos. Mr. Sani has written numerous publications and worked on research and reports on topics like disinformation and misinformation, business and human rights, data protection, and digital inclusion. His most recent work is a policy brief on how to build a UNGP compliant tech business in Nigeria. Welcome, Mr. Sani. Hello, Mr. Sani. If you are there, please. Okay, so I'll just go right in. And we'll begin the question with Mr. Dewole.
All right.
So, sir, I would like to know, what is encryption?
Thank you very much, Priscilla. It's nice to be here in the midst of so many cybersecurity experts, both on the panel and those lurking as participants. So I'm happy that I can speak from the standpoint of an ordinary user while they go into all of the advanced cybersecurity things. Since I believe that this platform is for us to learn generally as members of the Internet Society and as everyday users mostly. So simply put, encryption is using some strong form of resources like mathematical computations, processing time, to make sure that something that is being moved, since we're talking about communications in this case, either your data that is being moved between 2 points, which is referred to as data in transit, is not visible to somebody who is not supposed to be part of the conversation. So if I am trying to talk to my business partner, either across the room or across the world, the data that I'm passing between myself and the other party should not be visible to somebody else. Nobody should be able to understand what is being sent. So even if they see signs that something is moving between those two endpoints, they should not be able to tell what exactly the contents of that communication is. And then if we also want to look at encryption of data at rest, that's data that you have stored somewhere, either on your phone, your computer, in some device, somewhere around in whatever form, that somebody who is able to access it or who is able to view or know of its existence cannot tell what is inside, what's contained inside it. I think that's I hope, a simple enough way to describe what encryption is. Basically scrambling things so that the person who was not meant to, or the party who was not meant to have access to that communication, would not be able to tell what's in there. And I'd appreciate some help actually from the other panelists with that.
So if there are other panelists that want to add to what encryption means, please feel free. So I would also want to know when encryption is used.
Thanks. I think simply I'd say that you'd want to use encryption when you want privacy. I believe that's the easiest way to put it. When you want some form of privacy in your communication or in your storage of data, that's when you'd want to use encryption.
Thank you, sir. I see a hand, Mr. Seun. Please, you can take the floor.
Okay, yeah, thank you, this is Seun. Well, I just like to first congratulate us all for witnessing yet another day of where we celebrate encryption worldwide, and good to see some of the names on this call, and of course to hear some of the voices. Even though we are all Nigerians, Nigeria is so large that at times we only meet ourselves online, thanks to the internet, by the way. Dewole has actually said a lot about the basis of encryption. I would just like to also even go further down in actually using an analogy of where you, if for instance you want to secure an item, you probably will put it in a container, and you probably will put a padlock on it. And if the padlock has a key, you will then either put the key, give the key to somebody you trust. Maybe the person will be the one that you want to be able to have access to that item. You probably give that key to the box to the person, because you don't want any other person to have access to it. So the process of doing that is also similar to actual encryption, whereby you have a data that you want to secure. You don't want unauthorized person to access it. So in order to do that, you're going to encode that data in a way that somebody else does not, who does not have the key to decode it, actually see the data. So and there are of course more technical aspect to this in terms of types of encryption, but that is just the basics of why you want to encrypt. Of course, what is encryption in a literal sense, and of course, as Dewole has also said, there's the aspect of wanting to encrypt what is being communicated or sent on the network. And there's the aspect of wanting to encrypt something that is static, that is an information that is actually either on your system, on your server, or somewhere in the cloud. And of course, but the main purpose is that you want to ensure your privacy, and you only give access to authorized people. Well, I'm not. Thank you very much. I hope that contribution helps, and I'd like to just go back to listening now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That contribution broke things down. Our next question will go to Mr. Sati Dapel. And I would like to know, how does encryption work?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I want to thank ISOC for the opportunity and the privilege of being part of the panelists. How does encryption work? Basically, encryption is placed on data. You have your data that you want to protect. You have data in transit and you have data at rest. Data at rest is maybe the information you have on your hard drive or the information you have on your storage device or whatever it is that is not being in use. And then your data in transit is basically the data that is moving from one point to the other. So when you are carrying out communication, is usually between two end devices, two systems or two end devices, that there is this exchange of this data or this information that is moving along. Now, how encryption works, basically, it takes like a plain text. It takes this information. When we say plain text, it means maybe in a human readable form. You know, the information or the data that you want to either convey from one point to the other or from one rest to processing, you take it from plain text or from readable format, or maybe an email or something like that, and then it scrambles it, you know, it scrambles it into an unreadable format. And that form of scrambling or that form of packaging it into unreadable format is what we call the cipher. Okay, so sometimes you see I say I need to decipher this, meaning that I need to unscramble it. I need to put it in a readable form. So how it works is basically the cipher, the ciphering or the scrambling of this text. So it usually helps to protect the confidentiality of this data, you know, that is either stored or maybe it's been transmitted either through the network or through the internet and things like that. So basically that's how it works. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sati, for that. Please, while the discussion is going on, if you have any question, you can just signify by raising up your hand, or you can as well type it in the chat so that we can take the question as the discussion continues. So my next question is directed to Mr. Akachi. Why does encryption matter, or why is encryption essential? Hello, Mr. Akachi, are you in the room? If not, please, Mr. Sani, please take the question. Why does encryption matter and why is it essential?
All right, thank you very much for this, and thanks for the invite. Apologies, I'm having a serious network issues. I just want to confirm that you can hear me, please, because it's so terrible here.
Loud and clear, sir.
Yeah, great. So the question is, why does encryption matters? And thanks to the previous speakers, I mean, they did justice to the by giving us the description and the concept of the issue at hand, which is encryption. So why does it matter? There is a lot of things. First, it has to do with the issue of data protection and privacy, which is a very huge term that encompasses a lot of activities under it. But for the sake of time, let's try to be as short and precise as possible. So the issue of privacy, encryption helps protect our online privacy by turning personal information into only for you messages, you know, intended only for the parties that need them and no one else. The issue of confidentiality and all that. So by sending email, you should make sure that your emails have been sent over an encrypted connection, or that your messages are encrypted over social media and what have you. And then second, you know, data is, we have this popular brand that are saying data is life. So although not literally, but data is life, and hacking is a big business. So we have people that can feed on the information that we share between us, people that can engineer the whole society by getting hold of the information that is available or what we share on the internet. So that's one of the issues. There is an issue of cyber crime, which is like a global business with lots of multinational outfits. There is different scenarios where large scale of data breaches that you may have heard about in the news that demonstrate. So company lost billions or millions of dollars regarding the, so we need to protect that. First, we need to protect people, and then we need to protect, when I say people, I mean the data that they are sharing, and also to protect the internet resources that we have, and then regulations as well. There are some, still coming back to the issue of confidentiality. For example, you won't like your health data to be available to the public, or your transactions history, your financial status, and all that. So these are some of the reasons why encryption does matter. I do hope I answered your question.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Sorry for the issues. My mic was on, but I had to just change it now. I don't know if I can say something very quick. Moderator?
Your mic is still sounding, the output is still not good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, right. I want to apologize.
The output is still terrible.
Oh my God.
I think you need to reduce the volume of the mic. It's too loud.
Oh, okay. I'm coming. Let me adjust. How about now? Let's start now.
Akachi, how about you not putting the microphone too close to your mouth?
Okay. How about now?
Your breathing is being captured as well as.
Okay, I've moved it away from my mouth now.
I think it's better now.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I had to change my mic.
Okay.
I just want to say something regarding the first question. When data encryption is used, and also I think it also applies to this particular question, why it's important. I was waiting for someone to say something about this, and since no one has said that, I think I should be the one to say it. Another major reason why encryption is used, well, in fact, I think it's one of the major reasons why companies use it, if we're being honest, if we're being realistic, is the issue of compliance. Compliance to data laws and regulations. You understand? A lot of companies it's not even just an issue of encrypting. There are different levels of encryptions, so after we've talked about encrypting, we also have to talk about the level of encryption. And I think in that regard, compliance is a major reason for encryption. A lot of companies get fined for it every year. So I just wanted to mention that to answer both when it is used and why it is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akachi. So I want to recognize the presence of Mr. Seun Ojedeji. I'm sorry I didn't do that earlier. Mr. Seun is a self-motivated individual, a love of technology, and leader capable of influencing community positivity. His expertise include system networking, wireless technologies, internet policies, e-learning solutions, renewable energy, and project management. His hobbies are traveling, meeting people, and movies. We are honored to have you here, Mr. Seun Ojedeji.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I already also introduced myself earlier on. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, and I'll go straight to asking you the next question, which is, why is encryption under threat?
Okay, why? Thank you, Seun, again. You said, why is encryption under threat? Okay.
Yes,
so there are a couple of reasons. When you encrypt, you want to ensure certain level of privacy. I mean, you want to ensure that your data or your information does not get to the person or the organization or the individual or the end user or the endpoint, which you do not intend to send that information to or to share that information with, as the case may be. The reason why, one of the reasons why it's probably on threat is because certain entity, I would say, certain entity may have interest in that data that you are trying to secure or encrypt, and those entities, they range from different kind of groups. I mean, one of them can be government, actually, because they probably want to have an idea. I mean, check what is it that you're actually trying to communicate. Perhaps they may also have their own reasons. Some of them would say, some government will say for the security of the country and things like that. So some governments are actually pushing, maybe some governments, I'm not saying all governments actually, actually pushing for a lesser encryption. Or some governments are also pushing for systems that will allow them to decrypt without you actually being involved in authorizing them. So that's one aspect of threat that's what could actually that I could actually mention. The other entity could also be individuals on the internet who actually use the data for certain profits, who actually use the data for certain profit. And if the data is encrypted, it becomes more difficult to actually use those data, to mine those data for certain personal interests, of course, also for company interests, which is generally about generating money and resources and funding. So those are some of the reasons I would just like to quickly say, but of course, perhaps the other panelists will also want to add to why encryption is on threat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone that wants to add to that discussion? Okay, Mr. Dewole, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Seun, for putting it in very easy to understand ways. I think a possibility that we could look at as another way in which encryption is under threat is also the fact that encryption is based on the fact that you need a lot of computation to be able to decrypt what has been sent, right? And usually it means that it will take you a very strong encryption mechanism would require you to have many strong computers, spending months and months or maybe even years trying to break an unscramble what has been scrambled. But there's been talk of there being the ability to create computers that are suddenly very, very much stronger than the computers that we have today. If that happens, then isn't it possible that someone with a really strong computer can then now take a shorter amount of time to break what we thought we had scrambled beyond anyone's capacity? It might not be a very imminent threat, but I think it's something that's also been discussed.
Well, thank you, sir, for that perspective and that information. So I want to ask Mr. Sati, how do I protect myself as a normal user, as an ordinary user? How do I protect myself, or how do I protect my devices? And what data can be encrypted?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think it's more or less a practical question. How do I protect myself, my devices, and things like that? First of all, I would say, use end-to-end encrypted messages apps. Switch when you are doing messaging, like you are chatting. If you observe, like WhatsApp, when you're using WhatsApp, there is like end-to-end encryption. So if you're using any application that you want to protect yourself, just make sure that that particular device does end-to-end encryption, like Telegram. Telegram also does end-to-end encryption, and so on and so forth. Additionally, you could also turn encryption on your devices. For instance, you are using a laptop, maybe your Windows 10 or Windows 11 or Windows 8. There is actually a way you can actually know whether your system is carrying out encrypted transmission or not. Simple, you can just go to your Windows taskbar and just type device encryption. If you can see device encryption, it means, and you can turn it on or off, it means your device it supports the data encryption and things like that. But if it does not, then maybe you need to update your operating system so that it can be able to support encryption. Another way you can do that is maybe the passwords that you use, ensuring that you use strong passwords on your systems or on your devices. Maybe when you're using maybe a SIM router, or you're using a router in your office, or maybe you're using on your system, or you're creating a hotspot and things like that. Do not use default passwords. Don't use passwords that can easily be guessed, something that anybody can actually just pick at just a guess. I bet you that most people on their ATM cards use maybe their date of birth, or the day they got married, or the date of birth of their child, or something like that. When you use default or very passwords that can easily be guessed, I think that can be a challenge. So the advice is that in most cases, use a password that is a minimum of 8 characters long. There should be an uppercase alphabet, a lowercase alphabet, a number, a special character, and things like that. If you do that, I think it will help. Another thing you need to do, especially on your devices, is to ensure that your system are up to date. If you are using an antivirus, make sure that you are using a license updated antivirus. If you are using your Windows, for instance, make sure that your Windows operating system is up to date. Basically, no system is perfectly secure. Security vulnerabilities are always being discovered, and fixed by the day. So the owners of these apps or applications are always trying to update patches, you know, so it's always good to update your system. If you are using applications on your system, it's not every application you just need to download. Or you have you have a laptop, you say, I want to download as many applications as possible. No, just download and install what you need. Another thing you can do to help is to turn on two-factor authentication. You know, two-factor login adds another factor, you know, to your another level or layer of security to your authentication. You know, for instance, you have your normal username and your passwords. It is also good that you have a mobile or a phone number prompt that will send you maybe like a token or something like that. You do that mostly in banks, maybe bank applications, or maybe in your Google email, you want to do two-factor authentication. That will help a lot. So if you're using Facebook, you can also enable your two-factor authentication. So generally on your digital footprints on the social media handles, use two factors. On your banking applications, use two factors. Make sure the applications that you're using actually enable that. Another way that can help is when you turn on erase data options on your smartphones and services options. When somebody tries to, let's say, attempt to log into maybe your device, maybe more than 5 times and it fails, or 10 times and it fails, 10 attempts and it fails, and things like that. So it will just erase the content of the phone or erase the content of the laptop to prevent anyone from having access, because most of these people that gain access to your data are not magicians. So they work with what you know and what is around you and the data that is there. So what data can be encrypted? Your personal data can be encrypted. Your financial record or your financial data should be encrypted. Your organizational transaction, maybe registration of students or employees, and then maybe financial transactions or any information or data that is sensitive, you know, card details and stuff like that. So I think that's how you can protect yourself or your devices and then your data or something like that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sati. I can see two.
Yeah, so thank you, Sati, thank you everyone, and thank you, my
Hands are raised.
co-moderator. Okay, can anyone hear me? We can barely hear you, Priscilla. Am I the only one? Can anybody hear?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Chinwe. I kept quiet so you can continue.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you so much. I'm listening on the conversation. Okay, so our next set of questions, I think I want Mr. Dewole and Mr. Sani to try and shed more light on that. And the next question is there a way an individual, okay, so Sati has answered that question, how to personally determine if a device is encrypted. Okay, so what is the difference between a public key and a private key in encryption? I know that it's getting a bit technical now. What's the difference between a public key and a private key in encryption? Yes, please. Okay, on our panel, I think that Mr. Seun, Mr. Dewole can also, shed more light on that. Can you just break it down for us? For a layman, what is public key? What is private key in encryption?
Welcome back, Chinwe. Dewole here again. Before we run into public key and private key, I think if you don't mind, I wanted to kind of touch on some things that Sati had talked about earlier regarding end-to-end encryption. And because this is what we see every day as ordinary users like myself, and I see things like end-to-end encrypted. WhatsApp shows me a message that says this message is end-to-end, this chat session is end-to-end encrypted, meaning that nobody else can take a look at, can see what you are saying. And during calls, we hear things like that as well. But I think that we should be a little bit careful. Okay, yeah, and also to mention, he had said that Telegram also has end-to-end encryption, but I recently found out that by default, because of some patent issues, I believe, by default, your Telegram chats are not end-to-end encrypted unless you select the secret chat option. That's when your Telegram chats become end-to-end encrypted. But anyway, to go back to what I was going to talk about is the false sense of security that we get when we see things like this chat is end-to-end encrypted. It doesn't mean really that somebody cannot screenshot the message and share it. So the encryption that WhatsApp or whomever the service provider is talking about is that when we transmit this thing for you, nobody is going to see it. It also doesn't cover cases like when somebody's device has been compromised through some other means, maybe through a phishing attack or some other thing, that something has been installed on that system or phone or whatever device that sees the thing as you're typing it. You know, if somebody is recording what you're doing as you're typing it, then there's no point whether your device is encrypted or it's not encrypted, or the communication is encrypted or not. That person has already seen what is there that you've put in there. So I just wanted to chip that in so that we don't have a false sense of security because we see that this thing they wrote on it is encrypted. So it means that there's privacy and confidentiality guaranteed in this communication. Does somebody want to take the differences between public and private key?
Yeah, let me say a word or two on the public key and the private key. Generally, the private keys can be used for both encryption and decryption, while the public keys are used only for the purpose of encrypting sensitive data. So the private keys are like shared between the sender and the receiver. The sender is sending a message, the receiver is receiving, and so they share the key, all right? Whereas the public keys can be freely circulated among multiple users. So some of their differences falls within these categories, maybe like the algorithm that is being used for the encryption. So like in the private keys, it is like we said, used for both encryption and decryption of the data, the sensitive data. But like I said, the public key is used for like purpose of encrypting data. But when it comes to the performance, the private key mechanism is usually faster, than the public key. The public key is a little slower than the private key. And in terms of the secrecy or the confidentiality stuff, the private key is usually kept secret and not public to anyone apart from the sender and the receiver. But the public key sometimes is free to use, and the private key is kept secret, like I said. Now, as regards the type, their mode, or like, I don't know how to package it, like the method, the private key is usually symmetric, while the public key is asymmetric. Symmetric means that they share a single key. There's a single key that is being shared between the sender and the receiver. you know, but the asymmetric means that there are like two different keys for two different purposes, you know. The private key is also, how do I put it? It's shared between two parties. Well, I think I said that. The performance testing checks the reliability, scalability, and speed of the system, you know, when you are dealing with private keys. But when you're coming to public keys, you know, there's a lot of load testing checks and the sustainability of the system. Well, I think these are just a few differences that I can say about private and public key. Maybe other panelists will add to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sati and Dewole Ajao. Thank you for that. I think that the president would like to make a few remarks on the topic at hand, the private and the public key. So, Mr. President, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Basically, I wasn't going to talk about public and private keys and all of that. I'd like to just break this down to the very basic end user on the street, and perhaps what we are supposed to be looking at from a recommendation perspective, maybe specifically to most of our public policymakers. So I'll be speaking basically from a public policy perspective, right? So now let's break this down. Encryption is basically, you know, communication between one party and all of that in a more secured way, in a encrypted manner, right? But the question also is, sorry, there is some background movement distracting. Can you please mute? Blessing, can you please mute?
I think you can even mute yourself.
Now, let me just get ahead with, while I hope I can continue. Now, one of the things I'd like to a whole lot of now, back to what I was saying. One of the closest way we have anything enshrined in our constitution when it comes to anything that is a little bit close to encryption, right, is Section 37, which talks about privacy and which also talks about exchange of communication between more than one party and the rights of citizens in Nigeria to have that privacy. Good. We have other allied acts that are within that same spectrum as well, but none of them specifically has been able to talk about encryption as a whole. The closest we probably have that maybe might be trying to speak to that will be the Cybersecurity Act, right? However, there is no specific section within that Cybersecurity Act as at when it was formulated then that actually speaks to strong encryption, about us having cryptography standards that we should be using during most of our exchanges of data and the rest of them like that. Now, having said that, another thing that I want to perhaps put as some form of information to us right now is that I'm currently aware that there is a review. Blessing, could you please mute? Now, one of the things that I'm also aware of is that the I think the Nigerian legislature is currently looking at a way of reviewing the Cybercrime Act. There was an open call that I saw with a couple of lawyer friends where they are asking for contributions to the new Cybercrime Act that will be repealed, and then a fresh one will be put forward. One of the things I would want to perhaps encourage most of us, specifically on this call, is that we should try and participate, specifically when it comes to the public calls of some of these things. Like they keep saying in one of the philosophers keep saying, he said one particular thing, that your refusal to participate in governance, and specifically when it comes to laws or acts of the parliament that talks about some of these issues, right? Your refusal to participate in it means that at the end of the day, we will be governed by imbeciles, right? Which means that we'll be governed by those who are unfit. So I want to encourage us, one, as some form of recommendation, to participate, especially when there are open calls to some of these legislations that speaks to encryption and all of that. Before you know it now, probably a section will probably be inserted into it which speaks specifically. I was almost wondering if it was the government of Nigeria that stopped my recording, just on the front side, right? So I was almost of the opinion that if we do not participate in some of this legislation, some section might be inserted into it that at the end of the day might affect us as Nigerians. Today, I see some legislations that perhaps didn't have a lot of open call, and at the end of the day, people are now crying foul that these things is affecting all of us. So it's good that we try to look at some of these things. Other allied, from public policy perspective that I know, other allied acts that I know of is perhaps Section 70 of, and maybe 147 of the Nigerian Communications Act of 2003, which at some point enables NCC to make regulations which kind of set out requirement for licensed operators to maybe authorize some form of interception of communication. Now, when NCC, one of our regulators, has some of those powers to intercept regulation at some point in time, I think the idea of talking about encryption maybe has failed us, right? And these are some of the things that maybe we should also try and, you know, look at as well. Some of the other acts that I'm also aware of, a specific section, I think, within the Cybercrime Act. Yeah, I think maybe Section 45 or so of it. I think it also allows for law enforcement officers to be able to obtain warrant from judges, to be able to, you know, decode, decrypt, and see readable text in an unredacted manner, in the way that people's privacy are encroached on. But one of the things that I've also realized from this is that if law enforcement approaches a judge, are our judges equipped to understand what basic encryption is, right? Most of our judges today in Nigeria perhaps just study the law, but they've also not studied that aspect of technology law, which speaks about privacy, encryption, and quite a number of other things. So at a face value, most of them might perhaps interpret the Constitution based on what is the fact that is presented to them by the lawyers. At that point in time, a defending lawyer cannot probably be educating the judge on what to do or how to pass his judgment. And whatever a judge passes as some form of judgment usually serves as some form of precedence to other court cases that might be coming up. So why am I saying all of this is that at some point in time, let us pass through engaging and participating when some of these laws are being made, especially when it comes to encryption, one. And then when these laws are being made, let's make a little bit of noise about it. Let it gain a little bit of traction. This is where ISOC comes in, where we do lots of advocacy. And it's just some form of encouragement for us. And I just want to quickly just wrap up because of time and because I know most of our panelists still have lots of stuff to dish out to us as some form of last minute, but I just thought I should chip this in at some point just for us to know that from a public policy perspective, we all have that role to play in some of these engagements. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Caleb. Thank you for that perspective. So I think that we'll just add two more questions and we'll call it a day. So I would like to ask that encryption versus national security. There have been arguments in some quarters of how some governments are anti-encryption for whatever reason. I would like us to speak to that. Encryption versus national security. Where do we draw the line? And where does policy restriction become too much? How far is too far? So that's what I'm going to ask. Who, any of the panelists can actually respond to this, who has worked in that space, encryption versus national security. How far how far is too far? So I don't know, any of the panelists can respond to that. Thank you.
Let me say something about that, if I may. Can you hear me?
Okay, please go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
And I think it also relates to one of the questions that was asked on the chat. How do we avoid government from, how do we block government from seeing our communication and so on and so forth? It's really a question that I'm not sure there's really no straight answer to it, because at one point, at some level, government would say they need access to these things for national security. Okay, they want to be able to catch the bad guys. Let's remember that there are people who actually have bad intent who also encrypt their information, right? There are also people who have good intent and who actually also want to use the same encryption. So the internet is actually available for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So some governments would claim that they want these encryptions. They want to be able to decrypt encrypted information because they want to catch the bad guys. Okay, but at the same time, there is also this aspect that most governments also want to actually catch those who, they want to get information of those who are probably not in line with their ideology, in line with the certain policies, or for personal interests as far as government is concerned. So this is something that would probably continue, because we have also seen certain governments who will be asking for manufacturers to actually introduce what we call backdoors to decrypt information. We've also seen situations whereby government will issue subpoenas to service providers to decrypt data of their users because they want to gain access to it. This is not going to stop. I don't think it's going to end per se, but I just think that we just need to continue to outreach government that even if they intend to catch the bad guys, at least processes needs to be it needs to go through certain process, and eventually they need to get to a point whereby one actually is freely giving that information, is agreeing that, okay, I want my information to be accessed. With my intention. If we get to that level, then I would say one is still upholding the principle or the intention of encryption by doing that. But when those things are accessed without even your intention and your notification, without even you being aware of it, then I think it's a problem. But I think this how to solve this is not a direct. It doesn't have a direct solution because we also don't want to impact the national security, so to speak. But what we just do, we just hope that we continue to get government that is responsible, that respect the privacy of its or our citizens, and of course by making sure that even if my data is encrypted, I am informed, I am aware, I'm asked to actually agree to decrypt the information for government to then access or get anything that I actually authorize them to get. It's a long thing, but I think maybe legislation, various policies can help to some extent, but at the same time, we also need to look at the bigger picture of how the implications that it will also have on national security. But I think I'll just leave it at that point and see whether there's anybody that wants to contribute. But again, there is really no direct answer to this. We just hope for a responsible government in various aspects. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Does any other person want to respond to this? Because this is actually a very serious issue based on arguments and based on concerns by people. Does any other person any of our panelists, would you want to speak to encryption versus national security, the flip side, the good, the bad, and the ugly side of government legislation as it regards to encryption and how it also affects us as a nation? Anybody? Case Nigeria.
I think there's this is Dewole here. I think there's a question in the chat about how to prevent governments from, what does it say again? How can governments be prevented from infiltrating citizens' communication unscrupulously? So I think it's kind of related to what we're saying now, but this now refers specifically, I think, to eavesdropping. So the question for us all is, how can you prevent a government from infiltrating citizens' communication unscrupulously? At least we've heard in the news that it happens in many countries, but my contribution to that will be, and also latching on to what my president had said earlier, that we should all participate. Because at the end of the day, if somebody is going to, if the national security apparatus is going to find it necessary to listen in on your communications, on our communications, for whatever reason it is, somebody is going to approve the money that is going to be spent on deploying that technology, whatever the technology is. And if we're building the technology at home, somebody is going to be on that team that works to build the technology. So our involvement at all levels is what will help us be able to have a say really in what goes on, and then also help us understand when really there are strong reasons for some things to be taken, for some actions to be taken, and then we can jointly say, okay, we agree that our nation should deal with it this way, or maybe even suggest better ways of dealing with whatever the problems are. Because at the end of the day, the people who take these actions, who employ these tools, they see what they think are problems from where they stand. And the more we're able to get involved, the more we're able to say, okay, we see it from your perspective, but how about you go about it this way? Also try to see it from our perspective too. So I think participation at all levels. And when I say participation, I mean in fora like this, where we can educate ourselves as end users. I also mean when there are public calls by the National Assembly I also mean actively participating in electing people at all levels of government, not only at the presidency, especially in the lawmaking arms, because at the end of the day, if we have serious lawmaking arms and we have active citizens, then we will end up with laws that impact us, at least from our different perspectives, the way we'd rather have the laws impact us. And then we hope that we keep having whistleblowers who will tell us, or who would be able to say that, oh, this is what I heard, this is what I know, even as the system is not yet as advanced as inclusive as it should be.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. You have shed a lot of light on it. Active citizen participation, people taking personal responsibility, and just getting involved in the process. Okay, just one last thing on the question, and I'm going to just merge the questions. You had mentioned earlier, Mr. Dewole, something about supercomputers or very, very supercomputers in the pipeline that may be able to break what we think is very secure at the moment as encryption. So I'm going to ask a question. Two things. Can encrypted data be hacked? Akachi, I think that I would want you to speak to this. Mr. Akachi, can encrypted data be hacked? And is encryption a key technological tool to corporate security? You know, because I know that a lot of things we've said, we've talked about personal security, we've spoken about government. We need to speak to a bit of corporate security. Now, that's one. And the last, that's one question for Mr. Akachi to respond to. And all the panelists, your final words will be on what are the best practices when it comes to encryption. So two things, two in one. So Akachi, can encrypted data be hacked? And is encryption a key technological solution to corporate security? And then, of course, I'll come back and the panelists will round up with what are the best practices. So thank you very much. Mr. Akachi, you have the floor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't know if I can just add a little something to what Mr. Dewole said regarding the same question fine. And eavesdropping. I don't know if Nigeria has the capabilities for eavesdropping on calls, especially calls. Well, I think it's already established that the US government, they do it. In most developed countries, they do it well. NSA, I think, yeah, it should be NSA that's in charge of that particular area. They use machine learning techniques, especially natural language processing. It can pick up specific words and phrases, and then they have analysts who listen to those record, and then they analyze those calls. But like I said, I don't know if Nigeria has that capability. But nonetheless, regarding this particular issue, I think the solution is to clearly define what exactly national security is. If there are breaches, if there are threats, I think we need to clearly define scenarios, and then have that added to our laws, instead of just having government shout national security anytime they want to gain access. We need to clearly define what exactly the scenarios that need to play out before these things can be opened up. And then I think also it's important that we are sure of who exactly has access, especially on the side of government. We need to be sure that even after they've been granted access, who exactly will be going in, who exactly will be looking at the data, basically just to ensure a certain level of trust. You understand? So I just wanted to add that particular contribute to that issue. Then also the question of whether encrypted data can be hacked is almost all data these days is encrypted. And we have a lot of data breaches, so if it's whether it can be hacked, definitely it's hacked all the time. So that one it's not even an issue. Is something like that is done. It's very common. There are people who have the resources. There are people who have, no matter how hard it is, there are people who have resources to crack. We said earlier, that encryption takes a lot of computing power. There are people who have that computing power, you know, so it's not a new thing. Second question, whether it's a solution to corporate security. For now, yes, it is, but it's not a perfect solution, you know. But whether it's a solution, then yes, definitely it is. But at the moment, it's not perfect because, like I said, it can always be hacked. Thank you.
All right, so okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you so much to all our panelists. Very, very interesting conversation. And so your parting words now would be along the line of just advising best practices when it comes to encryption, both at the personal level, as a corporate organization, and even at the national level. What would you advise best practices, simple tips that we can just adapt and adopt in our various levels, both device level, data stored on the computer, and all the aspects. So I will start with Mr. Sani now. Best practices when it comes to encryption. Your closing remarks. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Sani, you have the floor, please. Is Mr. Sani still on the call? Okay. Okay, please allow Mr. Sani to mute. Host, kindly allow Mr. Sani to mute, please. To unmute, sorry. Where is he? Mr. Sani.
Okay, yeah, I can. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly, sir. Sorry about that, please.
No problem. Yeah, so my parting words will be, let's say at the national level, we need to, we do have some laws and policies that we can look off to. For example, the Cybersecurity Act and also the Nigerian data, what is it called? Nigerian data protection law, which is yet to be ratified, but people are pushing. But then again, we should know that Nigeria doesn't have a primary data protection law. What we have is the secondary data protection law that was proposed by NIDA. So at the national level, I think we need to sit down and look at the context, Nigerian context, and then come up with something that, of course, we can copy from, because internet, it's a borderless system. So it will be much easier if we can copy from other advanced countries and all that. And then at a company level, I think one of the speakers has already mentioned, there's no data that can't be hacked. But what we can do is, I always call on the need for data minimization. We need to make companies understand that they need to collect data that they actually need, not unnecessarily, because most of the companies do collect data that in the hope that maybe when something come up, they don't need to go back and collect data. So there is a lot of let me say unnecessarily collection of personal and sensitive data from people, and then when breaches happen, it becomes a catastrophe. And also, I would like to mention the issue of architecture, system architecture. Can you hear me? Sorry, call came in.
I hear you very clearly, sir.
Yeah, so I am proposing a unique data-centric security architecture, which allows only information security teams to comprehensively define data protection policy contextually, like it depends on the sector they are working in, and it allows them to bind the policy to the data itself. So it's kind of a complex system, and but always building a system that respects data protection in the first place will be a way to go. So these are my parting words, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sani. Okay, Mr. Seun, please, your yes, your final words on your best practices when it comes to encryption, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, a lot has been said in terms of policy, in terms of things to be do at national level and so on. But for end users, I would just say on end users, at end user level, always be mindful of the website you're going to, at least check its encryption status before you actually enter your data. I mean, a lot of websites can look like the one that you visited yesterday, but if you check the link, you can be mindful of the link, the URL which you are accessing, and more importantly also, when you see the padlock, speaking literally now, when you see the padlock, be sure to check the details of it before you put your private information, maybe your credit card information onto it and so on. Try to also make use of higher encryption, because the more complex the encryption, the lesser, I mean, the more difficult it is to actually decrypt by unwanted, unauthorized person. So using encryption mechanism is also advised. And the aspect of in the aspect of one-to-one communication, I think it's been said earlier that WhatsApp, yes, they do end-to-end encryption, but also don't be too comfortable with that with that fact, thinking that it's always end-to-end encryption and everything is 100%. If you are not paying, then you are probably the business. Always also have that sense of not 100% privacy in mind in anything that we're doing. So we should also be, to some extent, be comfortable. Try to make sure that you also have some sense of the fact that this is the internet, and of course you want to know that what you are doing on the internet, have the mind that it's possible that it gets leaked. So you want to always first secure, how do I secure what is it that I want to do first before you actually start acting or doing something on the internet. I think that's just the literal things I wanted to say with regards to what users need to watch out for when they are surfing the internet, and of course also talk to people. Talk to people who are experts in security whenever you observe something that is strange, because things change, evolve over time. There's a lot of technology that is happening online, and what you think is the latest may no longer be the latest. So for end users, always talk to your security people to advise you on how you can improve security of your information and data. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. You said quite a lot. Okay, Mr. Sati, final words and best practices on encryption.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
All right. So I just give my final word on two phases. The first phase is for the end user, and then the second phase is for the professional or the network administrator. As regards the end user, if you're using a phone, it is always best to use an application that can encrypt your data. For instance, you can install this Norton antivirus that has some encryption algorithm that can help end users. If you can also use VPN applications to help you securely access certain data that you think are very confidential. Then also for the end user, when you are visiting websites that have to do with entering your information, maybe login details or making payments or something, make sure that it has HTTPS, and make sure you see that padlock at the browser. You know, so for end users, if you are able to do that, it's going to help you. For professionals, maybe when you are a network administrator, your key algorithm and size matters when it comes to encryption. I always use maybe 128 or preferably 256 key length, and so on and so forth. Another thing you can do as a professional is make sure you use centralized key management systems. Especially when you're doing your encryption, it's going to help a lot. And then it's also good to also back up your data. Make sure your data is backed up at all times. And it's also good to do this hash algorithm check, hash value check for your data. If you keep your data, you back up your data, it's always good to calculate the hash value and always verify to ensure that that particular data is not compromised, you know. And it's also good to have principles in your organizations or personal principles that will guide you, and that way it can help you. Thank you very much. I think these are my
all right, thank you so much. Thank you. And Akachi, last final words now. Best practices when it comes to encryption.
Yeah, my final words are also for the end user. Regarding this multiple factor authentication, there's something I noticed that we don't talk about, and I feel like we need to emphasize on this particular issue. It's not, I don't believe it should just be about using multiple factor authentication. We also need to insist on using dynamic techniques or dynamic keys instead of the static ones that most people use. Because, for instance, some sites, as a way of ensuring MFA, it could just be certain questions they ask. Like, for instance, who's your favorite uncle? What's the name of your childhood pet? You know, these things are actually MFAs, but they are not as secure as they should be. And if it's not ensuring security, then what is the point? So anytime I have this opportunity to give advice regarding this particular issue of MFA, I always insist on using dynamic keys. For instance, tokenization. You understand? You could get you could use authenticator applications. For instance, I use Google authenticator applications for almost all my apps that require credential logins. You understand? So I think it's important that we insist on the type of MFA to use, which should be dynamic in nature, something that is constantly changing. You know, that way it will keep the hackers will be as confused as possible. Then apart from that, I usually tell people always assume that you have been hacked at all times. No matter how careful you think you are, always assume that you have been hacked. So once in a while, this particular technique might be how do I put it? It might seem a bit too much, but I always encourage people once in a while, try to flash your device, try to erase, try to reinstall your OS, whatever it is you can do. Already standard, you should have your data backed up. You know, so once in a while, try to clean your device, try to flash it or erase or reinstall your OS, whatever it is you need to do. You know, I don't think these days scanning is enough, but it's still part of the standard advice. You know, always scan, but at the same time, once in a while, take a time out to do this. For instance, in my own case, I do it. I think it's not that I did it anyway, but there's been a time when I give myself at least 3 months. Every 3 months, I flash all my devices. I reinstall my DOS on all my systems. You know, so that's an advice I give to people. It might seem a bit too much, but that's the one, and that's the second advice I have. Then the third one, as much as possible, if your data does not need to be online, take it offline, regardless of whatever encryption technique you're using for data at rest. As much as possible, if there is no need for it to be online, take it off. You understand? It is almost impossible to hack what is offline. You know, so anything that you don't need to put online, don't put it online. Okay, so that's basically just the three that I have. Use dynamic MFA, refresh your systems, restart or flash, and then the third one, keep as much things as possible offline. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Akachi. I'm sure we learned new things. I'm excited that we know a lot of things. So, okay, the president would like to jump in at this point. Okay, so I think he wants to speak to NDPR. All right, so admin, kindly just unmute Mr. Caleb. He needs to make a few remarks. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to speak on NDPR. Wrap up and how would I put this now? Let me think.
How is ATM?
Sorry, who is speaking?
You are the one speaking, please. You have the floor.
Okay, I thought I had another voice. So now I just wanted to wrap up on a couple of things, just as some form of recommendation to most of us that we are on this call, is that one, I want to encourage us to follow the budget line, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. The reason why I'm saying follow the money is simply because of the fact that for every budget line, there is something that is described there. We've seen, I think I was having this conversation with the immediate past president, Dewole, at some point in time, or maybe, and then one of the budget, because I know he's a data wrangler, and one of the budget item I think he spotted out was the fact that a particular government in the early days, not in the current government, was going to buy an encryption interception software, eavesdropping software from Israel. And these things have implications, specifically when politicians use this to hound or to intercept things from their political opponents. So please follow the money. It's very important that we follow the money, follow these budget items that we have. One of the things that I also want to make as recommendation is that as much as possible, when this new law on our Cybercrime Act is being pushed forward and open calls are being made, I would want to suggest that some of us should make recommendations that we should have the independence of law enforcement agencies, barring any political influence, to be able to use their judgment call for issues around national security, interception, if. However, before that is being done, there must be a court order that must be defended, and that court order must be well publicized. And when these court cases are being done, they should not be done in any form of secrecy at all. Even when the law enforcement agencies have their what I would call these law enforcement agencies, when they have their mandate to do this interception, there should be an audit. There should be another agency, or there should be some form of audit on these law enforcement agencies, so that there won't be abuses of interception when encryption standards has been set already. Because take, for example, a disgruntled staff of a law enforcement agency might feel that he wants to snoop in on his wife because he has the access, he has the power. These things are even against the privacy encroachment of that woman, as it were, or against the other spouse if it were to be like a male counterpart, right? So there should be some form of audit on most of these people. There should be special courses on best practices, especially for law enforcement agencies and our judges, who are going to be dishing out all these judgments in favor of interception when it comes to encryption issues. And I particularly want to encourage our politicians and policymakers not to perhaps use the fact that this, take for example, the one by NCC, which still gives them power to intercept calls. I think, forgetting the section which I mentioned earlier, which gives them the power to intercept calls, not to use it to hunt political opponents. These things is against the tenet of our practice, open practice, our democracy, which we are currently practicing. More importantly, I want to encourage every one of us, let us go on the street. The basic market woman that is on the street there needs to understand what encryption is, how to protect themselves, their own privacy. You understand? The privacy that we have in our rooms, such that we don't want anybody to know what happens in our rooms when we use our curtains, close our door, lock our doors at night. We should also be able to advocate for that at the level of the basic user, which is the market woman, trader, and let them even understand that their encryption is also very important in their online transaction as well. These things are very important. And I think I have just two more, which is one, we should be able to make case to update most of our outdated laws, which does not reflect things on encryption at all. Especially some of the other allied acts of the parliament. We should be able to work assiduously to see that some of these new trends on encryption is there. More importantly is the fact that I'd like to see more universities talk more on cryptography courses, right? That will spur the basic knowledge of cryptography, which leads to encryption, basically, at our university level. Because you see, take for example, China has like one of the highest number of encryption courses and all of that that they do for their students. We'd like to see that also reflect in our university curriculum. And this is also a call for NUC at this point to also, consider some of this stuff. And more importantly, when we all sign out of this call, please let us go and do a privacy check once again. Let's run a privacy check on all our devices, run privacy check on all our apps, the permissions that we grant to all our applications, especially on our mobile devices, the kind of access we give to them. This is very important. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I know internet is also an issue in Nigeria. When you see public Wi-Fi, I am not saying you should not log on, but as much as possible, when there are sensitive information you want to transmit, do not log on to public Wi-Fi, except a Wi-Fi you can guarantee the safety for yourself. So on that note, it's a quick wrap for us on this celebration of Global Encryption Day. And more importantly, we would like to celebrate everyone and thank everyone for coming. We know that this is more of an awkward time for us to attend an Encryption Day celebration. The reason why we had to fix this time is...
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Regional Manager, Africa is on the line.
Oh, that's good. We are happy to have you, Victor. And before we probably wrap up, would you like to say one or two words to celebrate our Encryption Day webinar, which we started yesterday? While you are doing that, I will be sharing some of the pictures of what transpired yesterday. So please go ahead.
Mr. President, a video is available for that.
Okay, do you have it now?
Yes, the video is ready after Victor.
Okay. I have been logged out as the host. I guess you just reclaimed the host. So please share the co-host with me now. And then Victor, over to you, please. You need to give Victor the right to speak. Is because of the situation.
Yeah, Honorable Sec, please. Kindly oblige.
All right, thank you very much. I joined just as a participant to listen. So, and Akimbo is always picky to bring me up to the microphone. So I just want to congratulate you for taking part of your time today to mark the Global Encryption Day, to raise awareness, to show how encryption is important, if not is one of the requiring foundation for the digital economy that has been discussing among many countries in the Africa region. So congratulations for Encryption Day should be every day. So this is not just a day of action, and I'm waiting for next year to come back again and celebrate. Is to start a conversation that will continue until next year. So just a day to remind people that we are working every day to ensure that the internet is secure and safe for everyone going online. And I'm truly happy and want to congratulate again the Internet Society of Nigeria chapter for making that part of his mission locally. So well done, team. I was happy to join. I couldn't join at the beginning, but I listened part of it. So and well done, and keep up the work to educate, to raise awareness, and make sure that everyone is secure and safe on the internet. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. We appreciate your presence, and we are so much excited about that. So please, we believe so much that your presence on this call has made a great difference, and we want to appreciate you once again. Thank you very much. And please, we'll always come back to you whenever we need you. So thank you very much. And without wasting time, I want to call on the Honorable Secretary to please show us an interesting video. Honorable Sec, please over to you. Honorable Secretary, please over to you. Honorable Sec, please over to you. Thank you.
Global Encryption Day, and we're here in the rain, as you can see, at the Lagos State Polytechnic. We hope the rain subsides soon so that we can go ahead with our Global Encryption Day activities. More feedback, more information soon. Thank you for the patience.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Sec. Please, to the panelists, we apologize. My name is Chinwe once again, Ogbujah, Program Secretary, and my co-moderator is Priscilla. We would like to thank everybody, especially our panelists, who we had to reach out to on a very short notice, but you came, you spoke, and you spoke in a way that it was easy for everybody to understand. Priscilla, I think that she's also on the call. On behalf of Priscilla and myself, we'd like to thank everybody who has taken time out to be here to moderate this, to just help us on this panel session. Thank you so much. My final words will be, we have said a lot, we'll try and document and start to implement. So thank you. We also hope that when next we reach out to you, you will be willing to come speak to us. Thank you very much. Priscilla, final words so that we close out this panel session properly and hand over to the meeting host so that we can close the webinar. Thank you very much. Priscilla, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I'm seeing Mr. Victor's hand. I'd like to give him time to speak.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Priscilla. I was looking and watching the short video and the images, and I just want to point out that this is really something that struck me, is taking this celebration to the day-to-day in quote normal internet users, because encryption has always been presented like for advanced users, I can call it like that. So everyone, normal day-to-day users should have that awareness. And I'm truly want to congratulate the chapter to doing that, to bringing the conversation outside of the circle of, I would call advanced or expert users, so that everyone is aware that they can keep themselves secure and safe on the internet. So I just want to raise that point. So well done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Victor. We are so glad that you were able to join, even if it was last minute. We thank you for your contribution. Special thank you to our panelists and to everybody that has joined in. And I hope that we are able to learn and take one or two lessons that we can apply to our lives and with our devices as well. So I want to hand over the session back to the secretary, Mr. Akimbo.
Thank you so much. Housekeeping has been done. We need group pictures. Mr. President of VP can help us.
Mr. President. All right, so while we are waiting for Mr. President, I want to encourage each and every one of us to open our cam, put it on, while Mr. President prepares to take the picture. So please, if you have your cam, put it on. And if you want to use your
good to
portrait.
see you.
Okay. Please, let's put on our cams.
Let my voice show.
Chinwe, your cam is not on, please.
There's no light here. This place is dark. You won't see my face, trust me. Sorry about that, please.
Anyway, you can poke your head out of the window like I'm doing.
My room is not lit, so there's no light. Sorry.
Well done, Dewole.
Hey, Victor, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Have you been taking the picture?
It's good to ask. Some people's teeth are getting dry.
You can see that from Priscilla. Madam Priscilla, share the chubby cheeks.
Thank God.
If the president is done, over to the VP, sir. Okay, I think we are done with the pictures and they have been sent in by the president. Honorable Vice President, over to you, sir. Mr. President, you are host. You are now host, Mr. President.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So I had to use my other device. I guess you made the other device a host. So pictures have been taken. So thank you so much. Engineer Claire, are you here? Seems like he's gone. So I think it's a wrap. I don't want to waste much of our time. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Dewole, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. Mr. Sati, thank you so much. Sani, all our panelists, all our senior colleagues, Seun, who I also know is in transit. Thank you so much, everyone. To all the executive team members who pulled this off, I can only say one word to you guys. You guys are the best team. Thank you so much for pulling this off at short notice. Thank you all so much for all the hard work that you all put into everything that we do. Believing the internet is going to be safer and better for everyone every day. So on that note, thank you everyone and have a great day. It's a wrap.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.